All right. Well, let's get started. Hi, everyone. Today, we have the pleasure of talking with Andrea Blieden, CEO of Lime Crime. And let me tell you a little bit about this rock star. Andrea is an e-commerce pioneer who began her career working in the trenches of several e-commerce platforms and startups in the early days of digitally driven commerce. Her expertise allowed her to quickly climb the ladder to vice president of brand and retail marketing at Kiehl's before leaving For the Body Shop in 2016. After spending 1 year as the VP of marketing, she was promoted to general manager of the US and held that role until joining Lime Crime as CEO in May 2020. So Andrea, welcome and thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So you took the helm at Lime Crime during the start of COVID. Gosh, what problems did you face internally just from day one?
Well, yeah, it was definitely an interesting time, but I think regardless of starting a role, being in the role I was already in, there was complexity no matter what, and navigating a lot of unknown situations. So when I started, a portion of the team was on furlough. So I would say one of the most challenging things was probably having to figure out like who you were bringing back from furlough without actually knowing the people.
Mm-hmm.
So like it was all people I had never met.
Right.
And so unlike, where if I stayed in my current role where I know the people, I know the players, like I could kind of navigate that a bit more smoothly. I would say that was automatically the most challenging of situations. And I think just personally, I was living in New York. So I knew I was making a move to LA for this role. So I was also navigating like moving out of New York in COVID and back to LA.
Oh, geez.
And so that was interesting in itself. But from a professional standpoint, I would say that navigating the team dynamics and furlough and uncertainty with the team and uncertainty with a new leader, all of that and how you build trust with the team was probably the biggest challenges I faced when I first joined Lime Crime.
Was there anything that you did? I mean, like you said, I think, building trust with a new team is very important, of course. And so was there anything that you implemented? I mean, I don't know, daily Zoom calls for 10 hours. I don't know, but was there anything what did you do to try to build that trust?
Yeah, so it's a good question. So my first week, I did about like 40 individual, like one-on-one introductions. So I met the whole entire team my first week. It was a lot of meeting time for me and, pretty back to back, but I really wanted to make sure that everyone, I had met everyone individually at the very start. So that I did in the first 5 days of joining Lime Crime. And then I held like my first all hands meeting on that first Friday. So I met the whole entire team, did the first all hands, kind of presented what I thought like some of the changes in the beginnings of building the strategy out for the business were, took everyone through all of that and, introduced them all to me. I'm a very open book. So I think that helps in this situation where you're a new leader starting virtually. Like I share whatever you want me to share, whatever questions you ask, it's a safe space. So I think that allowed me to work a bit smoother in this environment and navigating that unknown with a brand new team.
Yeah, and being open and having that just that openness, I'm sure, allowed the team to feel nurtured in a way. I'm sure, just easier to be able to come to you and talk to you, knowing that, like you said, you're an open book.
I hope so.
So, with the Lime Crime brand, when you saw this opportunity, what opportunities did you see that the brand was missing? And where did you see an opportunity to broaden its consumer base?
Yeah, so I think, even given that I started in COVID, we had a really interesting shift in the business. So the business was predominantly driven by makeup in the past. And in COVID, as people were at home, they were more open to exploring different ways of expressing themselves. They were open to dyeing their hair pink and purple and blue. There were no dress code mandates from schools or from office uniforms. So we saw this like huge openness in April and May, right as I was joining, to really try hair color. And that was something that was, a side category to make up in the past. So for us, that really gave us the opportunity to like really look at hair as like a fundamental core business for Lime Crime and figure out the right distribution path for it. And not only the right distribution path, but how do we tap into that hair color consumer that is going on their first at-home hair journey? Like, what kind of content do they need to dye their hair at home? Because I quickly experienced it. The team had sent me product and I went online because I have dark brown hair and I was like, okay, I have purple hair dye. How do I use it? And then I kept like looking for content and I literally could not find a lot of information. And then I was reading the box and I was like, how long do I keep this on my hair? And so I had no idea what I was getting into. Luckily, I was down to experiment and I just like put the hair dye on my hair and left it on. And had a tint of purple in my hair because I didn't realize like it 100% was not going to show up on my brown hair. So there was just a lot of things that were missing in the shopper journey that were really highlighted because, this category requires a lot of education. And because it wasn't like the primary focus for this team, there was so much opportunity for us to provide our consumers with like real educational content.
So you went through the customer journey, which I think is just excellent. Great way for you to put yourself in someone's shoes. But you also said that you noticed the opportunity of that people were using hair color to express themselves. How did you see that? Were you guys online and just seeing this on Instagram, seeing this on different social platforms? Is that how you saw that?
I mean, also just through pure sales.
Okay.
So
there you go.
when you look at, our business in March, April, and May of COVID, like that beginning time of COVID, I mean, like the business just totally changed overnight. So I think that was like the initial indicator. And then you started seeing everything in the social space. And then you started seeing like all digital press coming out around coloring your hair pink, and you started seeing celebrities like Hilary Duff coloring her hair, and then everyone wanted that colored hair dye. So there are so many different indicators that hair was going to be like a huge piece of this business.
Yeah, I was when full disclosure, you're a Vendo partner. We do, manage Lime Crime on Amazon and Walmart.com, and are extremely excited to be doing so. So when we were talking, and before we partnered up for Amazon, one of the things that this is what happened to me. I was driving. I was in a Starbucks in the drive-through line, and the gentleman who was giving me my coffee, he African American gentleman, had a shock of like bright blue, hair. And I had been talking to you probably the day prior, and he told me it was a Lime Crime. I asked him, and he said it was a Lime Crime product. I was so excited.
Well,
how it just made me think, wow, Lime Crime is really touching many different communities that people may not think would be, I don't know, dyeing their hair or whatnot. Have you seen an opportunity in, different communities of color, LGBTQ, have you seen other opportunities there, and how have you gone after that, if you have?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think one of the original things that I did when I started was really look at our influencer base and broaden the people that we use.
Yeah.
So we completely pivoted our influencer strategy to be much more inclusive than it's ever been in the past. And it's something we really pride ourselves on because, one, I mean, the beauty industry needs to be broad. It reaches tons of different consumers, tons of different races and genders and everything. But Lime Crime as a brand is all about self-expression. And we just want you to have fun with our product and have fun with color. And we don't care who you are. You could be any age range, you could be any gender, you could be any sexual preference. Like, we do not mind. Please come play with our color and have fun with it. And I think that's the most important part, is as long as you can use our color and feel your best with your vibrant purple hair or blue hair, like we just want we want people to be brought joy through using our product.
Did you, when you changed your influencers and made that whole influencer core more inclusive, did you see an uptick in people's response in sales and in likes and all the things that we now look to today to see if we're relevant or more relevant than we were before?
For sure. I think one of the places where we see the most uptick is actually like moms dyeing their kids' hair. And it's really interesting because we have an influencer that I'm just totally obsessed with how she dyes her hair and how she dyes her daughter's hair. And her daughter is naturally blonde and she's probably about 7-ish. And they just have so much fun with color at home. And she uses all different colors, tons of different colors at a time. And it's some of our highest performing posts from an engagement standpoint. But then when you read through the comments are really like either really, really positive or really negative about dyeing your daughter's hair. And I always found that so interesting because, one, it's not like she's bleaching her daughter's hair. Her daughter is naturally blonde, so she's not using any harsh chemicals or anything. Our hair dye is non-damaging. It's semi-permanent. It's an ultra conditioning formula. It's not going to damage your hair. So why not let your kids have fun and express themselves in the way that they want to express themselves? And when you see her daughter's face after her colored hair transformation, she's so happy. So to me, it was always like how the negative sentiment around such a joyous moment existed. I never quite understood, especially when you have that education that our product is not damaging hair.
Right.
But I think that was like one of my most interesting moments where I was like, we all know like the social space is tough and like people love to hate in that world, but those by far were like our most engaging posts that we've done today.
Wow, that's very, very cool. Did you always want to be a CEO and run a brand?
It's a really good question. I actually didn't. I didn't know. I really didn't. So when I started at Kiehl's, like I definitely knew that I wanted to grow my career and that I wanted a broader marketing role. So going from e-commerce and digital marketing, I pivoted into retail marketing and then into brand and retail marketing. And that's really because I didn't want to be pigeonholed as just an e-commerce talent at L'Oreal. Like I really wanted a more broad experience, which lent itself to the body shop. And at the body shop, I honestly thought that I would probably go to like a more corporate, like instead of working in a market, working on, the international team or something like that. I didn't necessarily think that I would be the general manager of the US market. And when the opportunity presented itself, I was obviously like super excited about it and really, really jazzed to do it. But it was presented to me earlier than I ever thought it could happen in my career, if that makes sense. So that's why I don't think my mind like really could envision that just yet. And then as I got that general manager experience, then I definitely wanted to be a CEO because when you go from like a head of marketing role to a general manager, you're already collecting all the functions.
Yeah.
And, working really cross-functionally and starting to understand how different departments operate and how different teams operate. So from there, that's where the excitement grew to become a CEO. But I also always thought in my career that I would go back to a smaller startup environment.
Okay.
So while I loved like working in the big companies, my personality and the way that I work and the way that I like to work is more geared for startup world. And I really liked that time at the beginning of my career. I like being a jack of all trades. I like putting my hands in a lot of pots.
Mm-hmm. To what do you credit your ability to climb the ladder so quickly? I mean, what opportunities did you see? Did you feel like, did you just outwork everybody else? Did you do that as well as, link up with some mentors? What do you credit that success?
I would kind of say it's all of the above.
Mm.
I mean, and it's also like being right place, right time, a lot. And I think the way that I've always looked at my career path is being really open to opportunities as they come and as they're presented to you, because that's kind of how I've landed up in the right place at the right time for different roles that I never expected. So I think it's like an openness to opportunities that come your way, and really like thinking broader about them, because I come from skincare also. And I've been in skincare for years and years. So when the Lime Crime opportunity presented itself, it's hair and makeup. It's a totally different category than I've ever worked on in beauty. And to me, those new experiences are really, really interesting. Same way I never wanted to be pigeonholed as an e-commerce only talent. I never want to be pigeonholed as a skincare only talent.
Right.
So I think it's thinking really broad about your career and also like taking some bets. So I think a lot of people have an aversion to like moving laterally for a different role.
Right.
And I particularly saw this in my like larger company experience, that people's expectations were that every single move had to be a change in title.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not realistic. And I don't think that you're like really broadening your skill set if that's how you think, because you're limiting yourself from a lot of opportunities. So I took some lateral moves. So like I went from being a VP of e-com to a VP of retail marketing, totally lateral move.
Right.
But it gave me a totally different skill set. Yeah. And I think it's collecting those different skill sets and being really open to the opportunities as they come your way that pave the future for your career.
Wow, that's I think that is really key. Like you said, so many people we look at it as next step. I got to get up to that next rung, instead of realizing that going sideways, left or right, might actually give you more of a skill set that makes you jump that rung to another rung.
Exactly. Exactly.
That's
and then,
great.
I mean, I've worked for some incredible people along the way that have always been really, really supportive of me, and great sounding boards as opportunities came my way that I could really bounce ideas off of. And I think once you find those people that you trust, hold on to them, stay in touch with them, and know like it doesn't need to be like a consistent every single day I have to text or call you, but knowing who you can like get advice from that has been there and done it before has always been really helpful for me.
Yeah, very much so. What innovative products are you currently developing at Lime Crime? Is there anything that you can share with us, here in Vendo world?
I mean, sure. There's a lot of stuff happening in here right now. So our goal at Lime Crime is to be the brand that gives you everything that you need to dye your hair or color your hair however you want to at home. So there's lots of stuff that's being added into our hair category to really complete that. And also for people that are afraid of bleaching or potentially don't want, purple hair for 2 to 3 weeks based on how you care for your hair once it's colored. Giving you a more temporary option has been top of mind for us. So I'm very excited about one of our product launches that's happening in a couple of months, to give you more of like that one night wash in, wash out type of color. And also, like, I think it's a great way for people to sample the product. Granted, it's a different kind of product, but to sample, do I like having green hair? Do I like having blue hair?
Right.
You know, it gives you a much more risk-free way of trying that out for a night or two.
Yeah, for sure. That sounds, somebody such as myself who, I don't want to bleach, but I'll try a little color every now and then just to be crazy for a night.
Yeah, so I'm very excited about a product launch that's happening in that space. And then in makeup, tons of stuff is going on. We're moving a lot of our formulas to make them cleaner. We're moving, and also in hair for packaging, we're moving a lot of things into PCR packaging and FSC cartons. So we're on like a path to cleaner, sustainable formulas and packaging, which has been really, really exciting. So there's lots of stuff coming up around that. I'm obsessed with an eye launch that's coming out in May. Super colorful, so much fun. Our creative team has done an amazing job on packaging and innovation in that space this year. So there's lots of really cool packaging coming out. And then our PD team has been working on some amazing stuff for holiday. So I'm so excited about 2022 for this brand. There's also like lots of glittery things.
No, glittery things are always fun.
Yeah, lots of glitz and glam.
So you guys, internationally, you entered into China. You have a distributor there. Are you in other countries besides China? And if so, which countries? Or if not, where do you plan on going?
Yeah, so it's actually interesting because China, we have our own Lime Crime team in Shanghai. So we don't work with a distributor anymore. The original model was through a distributor, and we saw so much success in that market that a Chinese private equity firm invested in Lime Crime a couple of years ago. We built out a Lime Crime China team, and that team is part of our team and solely focused on driving the China business.
Amazing.
So that's been really exciting. And that happened right as I started at Lime Crime, to add like another piece to my COVID puzzle. So in China, we have a couple of people that solely focus on that market. And then we're in the UK, we're in Italy and Germany, and we have a pretty large business in the EU and also in the Middle East.
Wonderful. Andrea, just to, end this, I would love to just hear, you were talking earlier about, communicating with people who have helped you along the way, and what is is there one or two things that you learned along the way from somebody who you reach out to for advice, that you hold near and dear, and that you open it up whenever you need to? Is there, what are those one or two gems that you keep close to you of advice?
Yeah, so actually the broadness piece of my career was through someone who worked in talent at L'Oreal. And she's amazing, and she's still at L'Oreal. And she always met with talent all over the organization, across all divisions and all levels. And she was the one who always said, you can't think about your career as a ladder. You need to think about like the fatness of your career. And like, instead of thinking about it like this, thinking about it like this. This is what she said. It's a direct quote. So that's where I always pulled that piece of information from. And through working at L'Oreal and through working at Natura, I was definitely blessed with working for people that had lots of experience across a whole bunch of different organizations. And the president that I worked for at Kiehl's, he always, he was very brand focused.
Mm.
So for him, navigating his career was always about finding the right brand that he could really tap his skill sets and his strengths. And he always, as I explored different opportunities in my career, it was the piece of advice he always gave me. And granted, like my brands look very different than his brands. So like he's Chanel,
Yeah.
he was Kiehl's, like he's all of that. And you can tell I'm at Lime Crime. It's a totally different kind of brand.
Yeah.
But it's always, as I think about the brand that I'm going to, I always tap into that advice about thinking about the brand and how it matches like who you are and how you can bring your own strengths into that brand and tap into, the person that you are, especially as a CEO running the organization. You didn't make sure that you're aligned with what that brand stands for.
Yeah.
And so that's another piece of feedback that I've always considered as I go to different brands.
Amazing. Well, Andrea, thank you so much for sharing your experience, sharing your history and the success that you've had with Lime Crime with us. Looking forward to continuing to work with you and your team and having, like you said, just an incredible 2022. Folks, this has been Andrea Blieden, CEO of Lime Crime. Thank you for joining us and watching us here.
Thank you.